So it looks like we are live. Hello, everybody. I'm Simon from Stampix, and I'm super excited to host this webinar today. We're going to talk about something that's very top of mind in society in general, in businesses, in personal life as well. If you're playing with ChatGPT on a daily basis, and we're going to zoom in on AI, artificial intelligence, but specifically for loyalty programs. And it was great to see that almost 200 people registered organically from different companies, nations, industries. So it's kind of a testament that this topic is very top of mind with everybody. Before we dive in, and we've got two fantastic panelists joining us today for the discussion, I want to give a quick intro about Stampix for those who are unfamiliar with Stampix and myself. So I'm Simon. I'm the founder of Stampix, and we are on a mission to bring joy to loyalty programs. We do that with a reward that's very specific. It's your personal photos that we print and deliver as a gift from a brand or a loyalty program, as a way to recognize those customers. So imagine your own moments, your family, your pets, your travels, which are all stuck on your phone. We unlock them and bring them into the real world, just like the lady you see on the slide who's very happy with her prints, decorating her home. It's something that we apply in a variety of industries. You can see some of the logos there. It's telecom, airline, travel obviously is a great fit, but also insurance companies and FMCG brands use it typically to enroll members, to engage members, to capture first-party data. So our product itself has a couple of features that touch on AI, but it's especially been interesting to be part of these loyalty programs to see how AI is shaping loyalty programs with our partners. And this can go from hyper-personalization to predictive rewards, which we are one of, and automation of the engagement. So the goal of today's discussion is to really unpack some of these concepts. And before I forget, I have to give a shout out to Tom from the Loyalty People. I know I mentioned organically registrations, but in fact, his global community has been great to join these events, and so definitely subscribe. It's a global community of loyalty experts. It's free, and they share great content. So I'm going to give you a second to scan that QR code. If not, they're really easy to find. The Loyalty People, and then the agenda and the speakers today should be showing up. Yes, so the agenda you can see on the right hand side what we're going to cover. But like I said, very excited to speak with two brilliant minds in the industry, Rachel and Sham from Kobe Marketing and Loyalty Juggernaut, respectively. And with that, I'd love to give them the floor to introduce themselves. Rachel, let me start with you.
Yeah, absolutely. So Rachel Bicking, I'm the EVP of Innovation at Kobe. I have been in loyalty for over 20 years and sit at that intersection, which is just so exciting right now, between marketing technologies, analytics, and data. And so the last year or two with AI advancements, and especially with my role in innovation at Kobe, has just been incredibly exciting. I can't wait to talk about it.
Cool, that's great. Sham, can you introduce yourself as well?
Certainly. Thanks, Simon. Hi, my name is Sham Shah. I'm the CEO of Loyalty Juggernaut. I've been in loyalty industry for close to 24 years now. I built loyalty tech multiple times in my career, and the time to be in loyalty has never been as exciting as it is now. At Loyalty Juggernaut, we are kind of reshaping the loyalty landscape with Gravity, our patented enterprise class loyalty management platform, which is uniquely designed for both loyalty programs and loyalty ecosystems. We serve clients across 14 verticals globally, helping them transform loyalty from traditional rewards program to strategic growth drivers and the foundation for data-led enterprise, for their respective companies. So that's me and Loyalty Juggernaut. Excited to be here in this discussion. It's a pretty topic close to our heart and close to our technology strategy as well. So looking forward to a great discussion. Thank you.
Thanks. And Shah, great to see those loyalty and awards logos there. They're also the common thread between us, because we were all three companies finalists at the latest loyalty and awards. And it's also where it sparked the idea of us joining on this webinar. So very nice. Now, before we dive in, a couple of housekeeping rules. So for all the people who have joined, there's a chat box on your right-hand side. don't hesitate to post any of your questions. I have Gabriel here next to me. He's keeping track of all the questions. He's going to give me some signal if we want to engage with you guys live. If not, we'll try and tackle them near the very end. 4 times, I think you will see a poll appear on your screen with a simple question. So please do engage. It's very valuable information. We're all a whole bunch of experts, so the collective knowledge is valuable to everyone. And besides that, it's also the easiest way to get it away from your screen. So just answer that question. And do stick around until the end, because we've got an exciting announcement regarding the Loyalty Day, which is an in-person event that we're hosting here in the heart of Europe. And we're also giving away 2 free passes for Philip Schelper's Loyalty Masterclass in Amsterdam. So with that out of the way, when we were discussing on how to start a conversation, I wanted to start with something that really sets the stage on where we are right now, the state of the art. And I've had the pleasure of speaking with Dr. Yuping Liu Thompson from Loyalty Science Lab. And she shared a couple of slides with us, and I'm sharing them on the screen right now. So the research you see here and the stats here are just from before 2025. So I think we really are on an inflection point. All these stats come to show that AI right up to now hasn't been 100% effective compared to human. On the left-hand side, you see the stat of the majority of customers still prefer not to have AI in the customer service. You can also see the research from Dr. Liu Tompkins herself on a 20% gap between the CX quality when AI is involved versus not. And that really has to do with empathy, which it so far was lacking. And so on the next slide, it gives you this sort of transition where initially it's about mechanical AI, automating of simple tasks, thinking AI, which is complex around analytics, decision-making up to a certain point. And then the next frontier is really this feeling AI, where we have that human touch. And the last slide that I'm about to show, and then I'm gonna get back to the panelists, is really the research itself, where you can see an interaction between an agent with empathy or low empathy versus one with high empathy. And you can see that gap from 20% on the left-hand side can be reduced to 3%, which is, as they call it, statistically insignificant. So AI is now really on the verge of capabilities that can take over and also mimic, due to a series of tactics, can really mimic that empathy. So interesting times, I'd say. And Rachel, I'm gonna start with you. When you look at that research, which highlights the disadvantages, how do you see that impacting loyalty strategies that you work on with Kobe?
Yeah, it's such a great question, because we also find, right, 75% of customers love AI when it's done well, which means that it's frictionless, that they're getting what they want out of it, that it's not overly scripted. And some of the capabilities that we're seeing unlocked by large language models like ChatGPT, OpenAI, Gemini, any of those tools really allow that dialogue-based interaction to be in the voice of the customer, but guided in a way that gives us some constraints. So when we talk about loyalty at Kobe, one of the things we're super passionate about is emotional loyalty. And we actually have a proprietary way of scoring customers to understand how that emotional attachment integrates with your brand. Are you motivated by habit? Are you motivated by reciprocity in that dialogue? Or are you motivated by status? And those are all loyalty motivations and intents that, if we understand how you want Gen AI to interact with you, do you want it to ask about your day? Or do you want it to just be very, very seamless, habit-oriented, filling the needs that you have? Then we can interact in a way that's either highly empathetic and giving that consumer what they want, or in a way that's just super fast, seamless, efficient, and giving that consumer what they want. So it really does go back to understanding how that consumer's emotional loyalty plays out, so that we can engage the consumer appropriately and understand both the advantages of AI as well as the empathy at a personal level.
That's a great take. Sham, I'll let you chime in as well. This gap between empathy and artificial empathy, is that something that you also see shape the loyalty programs for 2025 and beyond?
Yeah, I think the gap between the human empathy and artificial empathy is real. So, our AI technology strategy at Loyalty Juggernaut is not with a view to replace human beings. Rather, it's to augment human potential, their efficiency and creativity, make them more productive, make them more successful in what they do in their day-to-day jobs. So, if you just take a few examples, just to kind of demonstrate why we need to look at human empathy and AI empathy, if there is a word like that, in a different lights. AI agents today have become quite deft at answering the routine questions, cutting down wait times, making things very efficient. When it comes to very nuanced customer complaints, which require where customers expect an empathetic response, they want to be heard. They are not just looking at the solution. AI empathy perhaps would fall flat, right? It will not be as effective as a human being at the other end, providing that comfort and that connection, emotional connection that Rachel talked about. So I think that's a critical aspect. When it comes to loyalty programs in particular, right? AI can run predictive analytics, it can automate program mechanics, and largely customers would appreciate that level of automation, but they would still seek direct connection with real people that drives trust and loyalty. So I think it's very important once again to reiterate to not think about AI and all the great things we are able to do today with AI as a replacement for what human beings, the value that the human beings bring to the table. It should be looked upon more as an assistance or as a efficiency booster rather than a replacement.
Yeah, that makes me think of what the term they say for software developers is like a 10x developer, that you make them 10x more efficient. I guess that's going to be applicable to many aspects of our life.
Exactly.
Before we continue the discussion, it's a great time to put up the poll and see what the audience thinks on these challenges. So if everything goes well, everyone should be seeing 6 challenges, so quite a lot. But first one is about data privacy security. Then it's about balancing that technology with human interactions. ROI, obviously important when we start investing in AI. Constraints by the responses generated. And then very important, I think, Rachel, you mentioned this, brand control over dynamic outcomes. Like if the brand can still stay in charge at the end of the day and have control. And then integrity and operational, commercial integrity and operational reliability. So looking forward to see what people are saying, and we'll share those results later on. Okay, cool. Next up, I want to talk about personalization and engagement. So we now, or in the near future, will have the power to scale up those human-like interactions. So how does that impact engagement is really the core question. And Sham, let me start with you on this one first. Emotional loyalty, human-like interactions. Do you believe that AI can strengthen these emotional connections?
I think that's a great question. So AI in itself doesn't feel emotions, but it can be a powerful enabler to strengthening emotional connections when it is used in the right way. So just to give an example, AI now has come of an age and is pretty powerful in terms of processing humongous amount of data in terms of customer behavior, their preferences, their sentiment, to create hyper personalized experiences at scale in terms of tailoring rewards, recognizing milestones, anticipating needs. And to that extent, this level of relevance, which is very critical to drive emotional loyalty. However, the problem with AI is that when it is overused or when it is impersonal, it does create interactions that, as Rachel mentioned, come across very robotic and transactional. So the key is to use AI as an enabler once again, and not a replacement. In other words, AI can genuinely enhance the brand's ability to drive strong emotional connections when it is used alongside the human element and not as a replacement of it, right? You cannot delegate the emotional connection to AI. I think there has to be governance, there has to be human intervention to ensure that. So it's almost like, if I may give this an example, it's almost like supervised FSD, right? It drives itself, but you need human interventions and continuous attention to ensure that it doesn't do the wrong thing at the wrong time.
Yeah, or fly by the wire for pilots who are
Exactly.
also in charge still, but at least to our perspective, it seems like they don't have to do much anymore.
Right.
Cool, Rachel. Let me flip it over to you. How can brands leverage AI to engage these customers when we look at the customer journey specifically?
Yeah, It's super interesting. And I think to Sham's point, we have such an opportunity now to have human guided AI, where when we're able to build out the right frameworks, and especially in loyalty, defining what our goal loyalty outcomes are, and then intercepting customers when they start to deviate from that, right? I mean, and I think AI in particular, now that it's affordable, right? Like, let's say that word out loud. The compute isn't that expensive. Storage isn't that expensive. This has become something that now everybody can access and interact with and actually use in real time, which wasn't the case a couple years ago. As we're understanding real-time situations where loyalty can be so meaningful. So if there's a delay on a trip in hospitality, if you're experiencing some type of problem, you need a resolution. If you're in a store in retail and there's an inventory item out, right? Like, these are all moments where real-time data coupled with loyalty outcomes and loyalty strategies can come together to really delight the customer and create an experience that's elevated from what we had in the past. And I think the reality is that loyalty programs are really going to be super important in enabling that AI, because you know the customer in loyalty, right? You've got all of that longitudinal data, and that's AI is hungry for data. It's going to eat all the data you can possibly get about any customer all the time, and loyalty is our highest fidelity source of data. So it makes AI and enables AI to be even more powerful, taking in all these signals and outputting this relationship and engagement with incentives. So, my belief on this customer journey component is really that we have the right strategies in loyalty. We're delivering these offers, bonuses, benefits, statuses, whatever the outcome is that we define for these moments, and then taking in the data and allowing AI to kind of run at scale, so that when you have one of those meaningful moments, that customer is not only excited about it and overcome, more loyal to the brand, but also talking about it. And that evangelization and the way that we enable that as well is just super hyper critical as we think about voice of the customer moving forward.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there. Personalized offers in real time. Previously, we discussed chatbots. There's, of course, content generation as well, as we're all experiencing nowadays with ChatGPT and similar tools. We're creating text. Those can also be useful for loyalty programs. Sham, I think you and I discussed previously pattern recognition, how it can impact retention scoring.
Yeah.
Is that something you can explain briefly for the audience?
Sure. So one of the aspects that we are using AI to great magnitude is understanding customers' churn propensity, well in advance. So you may have a customer who's quite active with you, and by all traditional parameters, the customers seem quite engaged. But with AI, you can now predict that customers who are in a particular, who exhibit particular pattern, they tend to kind of, start to, disengage at certain period of time. You can anticipate that well in advance, and you can potentially have automated reinvigoration strategies in place. So you know that these customers will likely start to fall off the grid at certain point in time, so that you have proactive strategies to keep them engaged over a period of time. We call we have a positive spin to it. We call it I-retain, which is basically calculating every customer's retention score that exhibits their propensity to stay with the program, not just at the program level, but also stay with every individual participant in a program. So for example, if you're running a multi-brand loyalty program or a multi-partner loyalty program, the retention score is calculated even at the individual brand and partner level. So that the whole idea of a loyalty ecosystem is to maximize ecosystem advantage, both for the program and its partners and also for the customers. So AI can play a phenomenal role in terms of analyzing customers' retention propensity at the program level, individual brand level, and then take proactive action to ensure that customer behavior is driven in a way that is advantageous to the loyalty program.
Yes, great. And I think with that, I think we covered most topics that are going to be on the next poll, which I think personally is a hard one, because all these strategies make so much sense, whether you're talking about offers, chatbots, and assistants to increase the customer experience, or your customer service. the dynamic journeys that Rachel touched on, and this better recognition for attention scoring, and then of course the content, which we all need to fuel our loyalty programs. But nonetheless, you can only pick one. So let's see. Okay, I think most of us. So next I want to touch on something that's also equally important, you could argue, which is balancing the opportunities of AI with that customer trust and safety components. So how do brands really ensure that AI-driven loyalty still maintains that and guarantees that? So yeah, Sham, I'm going to start with you because data privacy is also a hot topic at Loyalty Juggernaut. What's your perspective here?
No, it indeed is quite a hot topic when it comes to loyalty programs, especially with cookies gone, the reliance on loyalty program. And as Rachel rightly mentioned, loyalty programs is the highest fidelity data. So there is a phenomenal reliance on loyalty program data, not just in terms of driving your AI, but also in terms of making your digital marketing strategy smart, making your CDP smart. I think it's potentially making the entire data-driven approaches in a program, in an enterprise driven by loyalty program, data privacy it plays a critical role. So, and as you mentioned, two magic words, trust and transparency, those things are critical when it comes to data privacy. So I think first and foremost, at the most fundamental level, brands should let customers know what data is being collected, how it will be used, and why. They should also provide an option for customers to decide if they don't want to opt in data sharing, right? There is today the loyalty programs have cookie cutter privacy policies, terms and conditions that, one size fits all, but maybe there will be an era where you would make it individualized, right? If I choose not to, not I choose my data not to be used by the program, and I choose not to be given personalized treatment, I think I should have that choice. So while personalization is great, I think customers should have a choice. That is also personalization. The customer should have a choice to not their data be used and and then delivered generic benefits rather than personalized benefits. So I think some of those things could be helpful. Also, majority of the AI models, right? We'll talk about a bunch of use cases, but majority of the AI models do not quite require PII. The models do not require personally identifiable data. The AI can be very effective with anonymized and aggregated data. So I think the brand should, and the technology providers like ourselves should ensure that the AI technology is built on anonymized and aggregated data. Also, I think it's very important for the brands to ensure that customers receive and really appreciate the benefits of personalization, right? We do prescriptive targeting traditionally for decades. What if AI allows the brands to run one campaign or one loyalty promotion that renders unique benefits, individualized benefits to every customer who is targeted through that promotion, right? The benefits are very clear, and customers are often willing to share their data when they see the benefits. So I think it is important that the AI is used to ultimately deliver value to the customers, and then it becomes a zero-sum game. Customers don't mind brands using their data as long as it delivers benefits to them. When it comes to regulations, data privacy, I think it's also table stakes to make sure that we comply with GDPR, CCPA, and all the data privacy regulations that are in effect globally. Now, all the countries are coming up with their specific data privacy regulations, and it's important for both loyalty program operators as well as loyalty technology providers to ensure that they play within the boundaries of these regulations. And last but not the least, and it's not quite spoken about a lot, I think we should make the AI decision-making process auditable and explainable. I think there has to be explainability to everything that AI is doing, both for the people who are the providers of AI-based technology as well as the users of it, so that there is a trust in using AI when it comes to critical customer experience processes, right? So a regular review of AI models to ensure that there are no biases. Is your AI delivering top discounts and rewards and benefits to people in certain demographics, right? Inadvertently, right? Because the model has been trained in certain way. I think the brand should also ensure that there is that kind of an audit and unbiasing of AI that happens as a part of the regular process. So I think there needs to be a whole governance process around AI, both in terms of the creators of AI tech, in loyalty space, as well as the users of AI, for making their loyalty programs more effective and more efficient.
Yeah, so not AI as a black box, but rather something that's audited, reviewable, controllable. And you dropped the word there, Sham, which is biases, which I wanted to ask Rachel about. Sometimes AI does have these unintended biases. What's your perspective here, Rachel? How should brands deal with that?
Yeah, I mean, AI hallucinates, right? That's just the reality of how AI works. And I think part of this, and I think there's a couple great questions in the chat. Claire had one that I think applies here too, which is loyalty programs are about trust. And a lot of that can be maintained by the inputs that you train the model on and how you leverage the data within. So if you never input demographic information into a model, the model's not going to be biased on demographic information. And I think there's a lot to be said in the way that we think about now with the power of that granular data. Non-summarized data is a lot more effective than summarized data, which is really kind of collapsing the way we've thought about data models in the past, right? We don't need those steps anymore because AI is more effective when you don't have that level of summarization. It actually simplifies a complicated problem sometimes. So, what we think about a lot is actually zero-party data, which I think is super aligned with loyalty programs and not only the promise of what a loyalty program is, but also the promise of that trusted relationship with any brand. And just to align everybody, zero-party data is data you're getting directly from a customer. So, we've got voice of the customer type of surveys that are out there that you probably are used to. Zero-party data is kind of voice of a customer, right? That singular customer. And what we believe in at Kobe is actually programmatic zero-party data, meaning capturing the data in a way that's really purposeful to deliver context and intent behind any moment. So the example that I think is a really meaningful one and makes sense, particularly to me, because I'll make you aware in a second, but I hate Vegas, right? And I know lots of people love Las Vegas. We see in our transactions for loyalty, someone went to Las Vegas. We all went. Simon, Cham, we all went to Vegas. I had to go because there was a conference. Simon loves the food. Cham loves to gamble. And unless you ask a consumer exactly why they went, what was their context, what was their intent of going, we don't know what to recommend to them next, right? So again, in the past life, I would try to infer that based on, did I go with my family? Do I have a family? What's your household income? What's your gender? And try to kind of get to that intent. And I think the reality is now with these conflating factors around privacy, third-party cookie deprecation, the highest relationship of trust, and the capability of AI to be used on much more granular information, I think the answer is just ask. So once you see that transaction come through of, hey, we went to Vegas, then give someone an incentive to tell you why they went to Vegas, instead of trying to use these inputs that then could not only bias a result somewhere else, but also actually give us a level of granularity that's really aligned with that human-guided element and explainability of AI.
Yeah, that's a great point. I see a couple of great questions indeed in the chat box. So, Sham, can you address one from Harsh Thacker on training, getting the right data to train the models? I know you guys are big on this as well. Can you chime in on that?
Absolutely. So I think one of the aspects that we follow in our technology thinking, and in terms of even the technology we deliver, Gravity, we moved away from the notion of transaction. That I'm pretty sure a lot of the modern loyalty programs would attest to that strategy. However, we embarked on something we call as BIT. It's like listening to customers' heartbeats, spelled as BIT, and we call it behaviors, influences, and transactions. We believe that every instance of customer engagement has potentially three nuances. It's important for a loyalty platform to be able to listen, understand, quantify, track, reward, recognize all the three nuances. So, a customer shopping at a retail store, or a customer referring another customer, or liking your post on social media, logging into the mobile app, writing a review. All of these aspects are critical, and all these things need to be brought into a central data store, which is, which needs to be built in that fashion. When you talk about ecosystem powered loyalty programs, you are really looking at lifestyle data of the customer, right? Where they shop, which airline they fly, how they pay, what they buy, why they buy, when they buy, who do they business with, where they go for, which gas station they go to fill in gas. You have enormous amount of lifestyle data, and I think all that data need to be available in a form that AI can leverage. So there is that, without getting too technical about it, there's that data refining, data curation process that's very critical. I talked about AI bias, and kind of Rachel alluded to that as well. I think it is important to ensure that your data is not leading to that kind of bias. So I think it is a problem that needs to be solved through, right technology solution, to ensure that your foundation is adequate and robust, right, for your AI to be effective. And it's not going to happen overnight. It will, like Rachel mentioned, AI can feed and eat all the data you can feed it. More data you provide AI, smarter it gets. And this is a process. It's an ongoing process. It's not a silver bullet that you turn on AI and everything becomes magical the next day. I think it's a process that brands need to embark on, and it requires continuous fine tuning. It requires meticulous way of defining specific KPIs, measures of success, to ensure that AI is really delivering, on its promise. And you got to continuously fine tune it. So I think it's a process to ensure you get the data right, and then you get the AI right thereafter on top of the data.
Yeah. Rachel, would you mind if I flip Mateo's question to you, which is on the P&L? Of course, there's a cost to enabling AI, the maintenance. Is that a challenge that you see with the brands Kobe works with?
It is. I mean, especially now that it's net new, right? Investing in ML ops at scale where you didn't have it before is expensive, right? So like there's of course going to be some level of upfront investment, but I think the good news is that because Gen AI is literally, I feel like, moving at the speed of light. Like every day I wake up, I read a new article about something amazing that couldn't have been done yesterday. You have a lot of capability to test into this, I think, lightly, and build out a use case where you're getting 80% of the benefit to use Gen AI as an example to build customer experiences. And if you're able to gather cost savings from one area, apply those efficiencies somewhere else, I think that P&L will balance, but it is a real thing. I mean, I went into this actually very nervous about a year ago around the cost of the ongoing Gen AI line item, simply because, you look at every single usage, every single API call, all of the compute that's being used, and it gets expensive at scale. The good news is, I think in the last year, that's gotten a lot more effective. And we also have a lot more capabilities of balancing out those P&L components with above and beyond business cases, right? And the more that we create, I think there's a lot. I read some wild statistic that I'm not going to remember about the amount of startups that are Gen AI focused and AI focused over the last year. But that's actually creating a downward shift in the market, because it's driving everybody's price down, because you can get things now to start out for $200 a month, right? Start building customer experiences, $200 a month. I mean, like, and you can go test and build into this. So the P&L is really important. What I would say is, do not go into Gen AI and AI and skimp on areas where it pertains to governance. We talked a little bit about bias and explainability, but some of those technologies around data meshes, right, where you're able to govern not just the data itself, but also how it's used in models and how you use that at scale. Those are kinds of things where I think it makes a lot of sense to see how you can build that into a budget in the next couple of years, because that scales really well, right? That's a governance type of component versus some of these other type of widgets where I think the business case builds itself.
Yeah. Okay.
Dale, I hope that helps. If you have follow-ups, please, jump in.
Yeah. One final point I definitely want to raise is also, the member also has AI at its disposal, right? So they also have some power in this, and that opens the door for fraud as well. So, Sham, curious about your perspective there, detection and avoiding of suspicious activities, aka fraud.
Absolutely. I think that has got to be one of the most powerful and efficient use cases of AI in loyalty. Fraud in loyalty is $1 billion problem, right? And while there is no silver bullet once again to bring fraud down to zero, there will always be some element of fraud. And there is a huge upside in terms of detecting and preventing fraud using AI. And there are a couple of things that we can look at. The whole we talked about the pattern recognition when it comes to retention of the customers. I think in a similar way, there is, you can easily discern certain pattern that doesn't look business as usual, right? Just to give an example, a customer reporting 10 retro claims in an airline industry in a span of 30 minutes, out of which 8 fail because of the name and number mismatch. It's likely a customer who stole a pack of PNR numbers and is trying John Doe on each of those. I think those are, there is now a much easier way to proactively arrest that kind of situation, not just detect those kind of frauds, but also immediately take a remedial action. You could immediately suspend the member or set the stage of the member as a potential fraud pending further investigation. And there can be numerous examples. So you could use some powerful unsupervised supervised model combination to pretty much try to identify potential fraud situation, customer buying at 2 locations at the same time, flying from the same airport on the same day, which is feasible in a very unlikely scenario, but you would like to be flagged when these things happen. And I think AI can play a phenomenal role. We do provide a very robust fraud detection and prevention. It is US patented technology called iTrust, which essentially scores every bit. As I mentioned earlier, every behavior, influence, and transaction is scored for its trustworthiness, and then either it takes a automated action in terms of success or failure, or it parks certain bits for human intervention and arbitration. So I think this has to become like a hygiene part of all loyalty programs, given how fraud prone they are, right? Regardless of the industry. And it is a problem that is often rubbed under the carpet, but it's worth talking about. We had Matteo just asked about P&L. I think these are all AI helping you save cost rather than increase the increase the cost out of the house. So I think that's a very powerful use case for definitely AI to solve in loyalty universe.
Yes. Rachel, do you want to chime in here as well with your perspective on fraud, or is there something specific?
Yeah. I mean, I think the reality is fraud's going to be everywhere all the time. I mean, gamers going to game, right? Like that's the reality of life. So I think the more that we can govern and be aware, and I think to the point, right? The tools are good now. We have anomaly detection. We can identify these things in real time. We know suspicious behavior. And the cool thing is we're learning all of the time. We're learning about account takeovers. We're understanding data quality kind of throughout the process. But we're to a point now where, again, this is going to be rampant. It's a reality of a situation. So similarly, we have a very similar, perspective, Sham, of we just embed fraud protection, account takeover, using machine learning, using anomaly detection, identifying those capabilities into every aspect of the program, right? And that's just simply part of a prerequisite for a loyalty program, is ensuring we not only have protections, but we have capabilities to proactively address it in a customer-friendly way.
Makes sense. We have a lot of more questions. We'll make sure to tackle them later on. But there's another poll coming up. The poll that's coming is zooming in on your point, Rachel, which is about zero-party data. Whether that's really essential, the guarantee, provided that you have the right tools in place, of course, to create that trust, which is so essential between the brand and the member. So curious to see if everybody agrees, partially agrees, rather disagrees. So let's see. Yeah, one thing I was thinking, the area where Stampix, leverages AI and also prevents fraud is we scan all the photos that people upload to print to make sure, of course, that they they aren't nude or explicit, and all the things you can imagine that people may try and upload into our systems. So that's been a very telling example of how to also interact with customers who do such things. Is how to inform them that their order cannot be placed, etc. And what we do is basically debrand all of these photos, make sure that any mention of the brands is removed. So yeah, it's also been a learning journey for ourselves on, first of all, detection, but then also communicating people who are doing malbehavior. So interesting balance. Good. We're already approaching to the next segment. It's just looking ahead. Things are going so fast. Every moment it seems like something new's popping up, a new tool, a new model is reshaking the logic. But still, we're going to ask you to think, beyond 2025, like what's coming next. So, Rachel, you could go first. What's the next big thing that loyalty marketers should be thinking about?
Yeah, I love this. I think some of this goes into a question too that was in the chat from Shabda, which is the AI brains, right? And where that goes. And just challenge your comment here, right? I think the innovation component of AI mixed with loyalty, and the question that was in there, which just to relate, was where should the AI brain live? I think this is an opportunity for loyalty to innovate, because loyalty understands the customer better than anyone else, right? I have this longitudinal view. I know the lifetime value. I'm not trying to say, do this thing in this moment to get to this action. I'm thinking 4 steps ahead, right? Our models are built longitudinally, not for a recommendation engine. So, how does that play out in terms of innovation is I think we can go in with a loyalty first mentality and say, hey, I've never seen this customer before. It's an acquisition target. They're coming in. This is what we know about them behaviorally, transactionally, et cetera. How do I match them with a loyalty customer that we know with a lookalike model in real time to identify, hey, this is what this person could look like. This is what this person could look like. This is what this person could look like. And then drive their interaction in a way that we can really create that, what we call, and Forrester calls data egress, right? How do we egress the loyalty data across the enterprise to create true value? Now, the sketchy part of my answer is there's a lot of ways to do that, right? Like, is it using AR technologies? Is it using some cool marketplace that hasn't been invented yet? Is it using gamification? I think the real platform answer is it depends on the human and what they're looking for. So as we deliver kind of this broader catalog of strategies, then matching all of our customers and even pre-customers as we get on that loyalty journey, so that we can create really dynamic, AI-driven, super exciting hyper-personalization, allowing the human to kind of guide that, not necessarily the selection process, but that suite and marketplace of available experiences.
Great. Sham, can you explain a little bit, when we think about AI-driven digital experience, how Gravity, your patented product, really facilitates this?
Sure. So I think that's one of the foundational use cases for AI, where the personalization. So when I interestingly, I started my career in loyalty tech, 2002, 2001. We talked about personalization then. We talk about personalization today. I think if there is one element that has remained consistent, and obviously because delivering personalization at scale hasn't been easy. And AI kind of gives you a quantum leap in terms of the ability to deliver on that. So there are two distinct strategies that we pursue from technology standpoint. One is what you call as I recommend. I recommend, as the word goes, it basically makes smart recommendation to the customers about specific promotions or offers, a specific product, or even specific partner. In case you are running a large multi-partner loyalty program, it says, hey, do you know that we have 1-800-flowers.com as a partner, and you can buy flowers here and use your points to buy a gift for your Valentine, right? So it's I recommend essentially recommends what we believe would resonate well with the customer in a particular moment in time, using the particular context based on the past behaviors and data, so on and so forth. So that's as far as we traditionally call it as inbound marketing or inbound channel is concerned. I recommend. We also have another patented AI module called I individualize, right? So it's AI individualize. So as the word goes, it essentially is personalization at one-to-one level, wherein, as I mentioned earlier, the example, you could create one promotion. For example, let's say a retailer wants to create a promotion, a grocery hypermarket with millions of customers, creates a promotion. it targets customers with a different call to action, right? Simon must buy electronic product, Rachel must buy fruits and vegetables, and Sham must buy, for example, gaming console or something that is more sports related. Each one of us get different call to actions, different stretch spend limits, different rewards, different thresholds. So every parameter in my value proposition is individualized to who it is being delivered to, right? An airline can run a promotion, can say, travel to your favorite destination and earn your favorite reward, where Rachel receives a first class upgrade for flying from New York to London. I receive 25 kg excess baggage for flying from San Francisco to New York, and you receive, a concert ticket for flying from Brussels to Paris, for example, right? So the promotion is one, but it's individualized to every end customer dynamically. So we invested a lot in these capabilities because I thought this kind of definitely moved the needle in terms of delivering on personalization.
Sounds very powerful, but I'm wondering of the edge case when you have two members who are sitting next to each other and they each get a different offer.
So the good news is in airline industry, the customers have come to the terms with the fact that I could have paid different fare amount altogether than what Rachel has paid while traveling together, and that's just nature of that business or how how it works there. But I think as far as the value prop that I receive resonates well with me, I'm happy with it. I travel with my family and I get excess baggage and I don't get an upgrade that Rachel gets. I'm happy with it because it's a benefit that I can actually use, right? And that's where it matters.
I do think it is important, though, to be careful on these, right? I think, especially with social media and how quickly Reddit, even Facebook, Instagram can be published, it's I think important. We talked about a little bit earlier on some of those data inputs, but also using those social media cues to monitor for fraud and other components as well. This is another one where I think if you run that gamut, where, to your point, I think for hospitality, it's super reasonable. But then when you get into retail, it gets, lower tolerance for risk and dynamic couponing. You'll see some early signals of if a brand is getting that negative feedback through social media. I do think it's a really important channel to also identify impact of AI.
Yeah, it's a good point. Now, with the interest of time, we've got about 10 minutes left. I want to make sure we have some time for some of these questions. And I do have one more question and a poll to process. So Rachel, I wanted to make sure that we also touch on something that's often discussed, sustainability. All of these AI models consume a lot.
So much energy.
Ethics, at the same time, they're becoming increasingly important. How can AI help brands to integrate these elements and make sure that their loyalty program isn't consuming too much energy, for example?
It's such a hard question. I think, some of the cool things with DeepSeek and others is that we're finding ways for it to be more energy efficient. But I think the reality is we have to think about practical AI. And there was a question up here on rule-based systems and AI integration. And I think actually efficiencies and sustainability is as good a reason as any for that integration as well. You don't need AI for every answer. Not every question is an AI question, or maybe it's an AI question initially. And once you get that recipe, you can build it back out in rules. I think there's a lot to be said about running rules in parallel with an AI approach so that you can understand if AI starts to outperform your rules, then you need to update them, right? And you can make that work and that balance be really effective, which will not only help that P&L and the cost component, but also sustainability and explainability. So I think having that really practical approach of how to apply it, how and when we promote rules, and how we manage and compare those with model management and capabilities around the way that we think about data meshing, et cetera, is super critical for all of these reasons and to serve that greater good.
Yeah. So the rules basically set the boundaries within which the AI can operate. I think that's a very sensible approach.
Indeed. And I think you challenge it too, those rules with AI all the time, but you're doing it at a smaller scale, right? You don't have to have it real time all the time, right? That's overkill for a lot of these use cases.
Yeah, and similar, like when we develop software, we have penetration tests. There's companies that are trying to break your system. I guess we're going to see the same companies that are specializing in trying to trick the AI into some sort of hallucination or whatever it's where it can go wrong.
100%.
Interesting times, cool. The last poll, again, a very hard one, I think, is to pick the biggest opportunity lying ahead for AI in loyalty. So either in the era of strengthening customer relationships, improving those internal or operational efficiencies, the churn components, which Sham pointed out to, more convenient customer experience, talking about the contact sensors, the bots that are helping us, and then consolidation of artificial empathy. Voila. Great. And with that, we're already at the end, and we have some messages. We've got a nice message from Ravindra, who's organizing the Loyalty and Awards again in Amsterdam. Yes, let me see. So Rich made here the analogy, which is quite interesting, with the contact centers 20 years ago, when new technologies were helping those. I guess that's indeed a nice parallel. Let me see if there's a question here. Be from Nicolas Valencia. He mentions the fear of information, and that is becoming such a commodity for marketing. Is that something, Rachel, if you don't mind flipping it to you, like all the data that's out there, marketing teams that are being overwhelmed with those options, they're going to be only fueled by AI and possibilities there. What's a good strategy or a good way to look at this?
Yeah, I think human guided doesn't go away, right? AI is not going to solve all the problems. It's going to create efficiencies, and it's going to, I think, allow you to challenge and ask questions that before just took too long to get the answer. So if you have a wild idea that you didn't want to bug an analyst with in the past, some of those cool Gen BI tools that are out there now, you don't need to bug anyone because you can ask it yourself, right? So I think actually my hope and kind of vision for this is that these tools actually allow marketers to be more bold, to not have to fill in these, this because you have so much time to market, and you set these things in motion, and then you have an analyst and a model and these things that take a lot of time. And being able to consume the data, use some of the capabilities, but really test the limits of, hey, if I did this wild thing that it's been in the back of my mind forever, what audience might be attracted to that? Would we see any cannibalization? Is there something else that might benefit from that situation? The scenario testing and the ability to get access to that information to make good decisions, but also fail fast and test things you would never have tested before, I think is a lot of the opportunities where marketers will actually unlock more creativity than they had in the past.
Yes. Shabda's question on the AI brains. I know, Rachel, you tackled it to a certain extent. We wanted to give Sham also the chance, because it's so tied to the data. So where does the AI brain live, right? With the CDP, the data warehouse, the loyalty system. What's your view there, Sham?
Yeah, no, my view is quite consistent with Rachel's view. I think the loyalty brain, given that if you look at all these systems that Shabda has mentioned in that question, the creator of data is loyalty programs, right? The CDPs don't create data, right? They receive data. Digital marketing platforms receive data. I think it's a moment. It's a time for loyalty programs to claim their moment in sunshine. They are the enablers of driving all data-driven processes within the enterprise through all these platforms, where data resides. I think there is a producer of loyalty programs are producers of data. The others are consumers of data. So I do definitely think, especially when you go with this BIT approach, behaviors influences transaction approach, and if you have lifestyle ecosystem style data, I think you're looking at very powerful, high fidelity, high impact, actionable data at one single source, right? So I definitely think that the gravity of AI needs to reside, with loyalty, right? So that's my very clear and strong view. Also, if today's platforms are designed, cloud native platforms are highly integration ready. So should you have to bring data from other sources, it's very easy to consolidate at one single source, right? It's not the hegemony of those large enterprises who had the claim to fame in terms of integrated platform. I think it's very easy to integrate best in class technologies today. So I do definitely strongly think that it has to reside with loyalty. I also want to comment briefly on the rules versus AI. I think it definitely, those two things, one is not replacement for the other. In fact, in many cases, AI and rules need to work together for it to work effectively. I talked about the fraud prevention. The fraud scoring is AI would tell you what it thinks about trustworthiness of a particular engagement, but there has to be a rules decisioning framework that should decide what the system should do with it. Because you would be receiving millions of transactions a day. If you are a Kroger or if you're a Walmart, you're looking at millions of transactions coming in, right? And or you're FEMSA, right, with the largest convenience store chain, you have millions of transactions coming in every hour, and it requires automation. That automation is a combination of both AI and the rules. So I think it's a great combination of technology to, one of the aspects we talked about is internal efficiencies, to drive internal efficiencies. The right combination of this is critical though, right? And one other aspect I think you mentioned, and Rachel mentioned as well, I believe, is to use AI as a bold step. You don't, again, in terms of your loyalty strategy, you don't have to abandon everything you've been doing for years and working well for you in the interest of AI. I think that has to be a healthy combination, and continuous measurement, as I mentioned earlier, to ensure that how these strategies together are delivering optimal results, right? So I think that needs to be the way programs need to evolve in the future.
Okay, that's a great answer, Sham. Thanks for that. And unfortunately, I have to mention that we're already in the last minutes, and I promised I had a few things to share with the audience. So let's see if the slides can be brought up. Yes, this was the last slide. So one is the announcement of the Loyalty Day, which is happening in Belgium, where I'm from. You can see briefly what we're going to be covering in that live event. We've got Q8 coming in with a case. We've got Air France KLM doing a keynote, Club Bruges, which is a local football team, and then a retail debate, and finally also a workshop on the Burger King loyalty program. So if you're around, if you have people in your company that are from the region who want to make the trip, it's going to be a fantastic day. Don't hesitate to get your tickets. And then on the next slide, you can see that there is another QR code. So you can also subscribe to the Joyalty newsletter, which we send out every 2 months. And by doing so, you will be getting a 50% discount on that Loyalty Day ticket. And you will also be automatically enrolled to win that masterclass course in Amsterdam. So giving everybody a few seconds to scan that. If not, it's pretty easy to find on the Stampix website. And with that, first of all, let me give Rachel and Sham a little applause or thank you for this fruitful conversation. It was really a great pleasure. And yeah, also the audience, as you can see, quite a lot of questions. Hope everybody enjoyed it. The recording will also be shared in the follow-ups. And for sure, we will collect all the polls and create some more content with that. Thank you. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you so much, Simon. Thanks for inviting this fantastic webinar. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks all.
Great. Awesome. Have a nice day, everybody. Bye-bye.